Chapter 6, The End of Charlemagne. From the lands where the sun rises to western shores, people are, stung with mourning and great worry. They and old, glorious nobles all lament the loss of their Caesar, a monk of Bobbio. Charles had lived a long and successful life by any standard. He had risen to power. He had created a cohesive country that was powerful and united, loyal to the church but subservient to no one, and he had built an empire that was a resurgence of unification but not seen since Roman days. He had maintained the traditions of the Franks while modernizing them into a European system of politics, social order, and governance. He kept his health into old age, although during the last few years of his life he suffered from a limp. Recognizing that his mortal life was nearing its end, he prepared to divide his vast kingdom in 806 CE. His eldest son, Charles the Younger, would inherit Austrasia and Neustria, Saxony, Burgundy, and Thuringia. For Pepin, there was Italia, Bavaria, and Swabia, with the youngest Louis inheriting Provence, Aquitaine, and the Spanish March. Because the title of Holy Roman Emperor was not bequeathed to any of his heirs, some historians believe that Charles viewed the designation as an honor, but not something to hand down to subsequent generations. However, Charles was still alive when Pepin died in 810, and Charles the Younger the following year. In 813, Charles summoned Louis from Aquitaine and assembled his nobles from the kingdom. With only one surviving son, Charles crowned Louis, who was 35 years old and experienced in governing and war, naming him as co-emperor and co-king of the Franks, with a half share of the empire, the rest to be his when his father was gone. Italy, however, was not for Louis, but the Pepin's legitimate son, Bernard. In November, after spending the autumn season hunting, Charles returned to Aachen on November 1st. He was stricken with pleurisy in January and became depressed over all that remained to be done for the empire. On January 21st, he took to his bed. A week later, on January 28th, he took Holy Communion and died at 9 o'clock in the morning. He was buried on the same day that he died, although there seems to have been no reason for the haste since it was winter and he was not dying of a contagious disease. Louis the Pious inherited the empire and his father's interest in reform. As was the case with his father, he was forced to address uprisings, although in his case the rebellions came from within the family. When his nephew Bernard, who had inherited Italy, challenged Louis' authority in 817, Louis defeated the rebellion, blinded Bernard, and sent the remaining conspirators into exile. Wary of other challengers to his throne, Louis sent his half-brothers to monasteries. However, family discord continued, some of it caused by resentment over the son, Charles, born to Louis' second wife, Judith. His older sons forced Louis to acknowledge his misdeeds and to accept a punishment of eternal penance. However, when his supporters were able to split the unity of the older sons, Louis was restored to power. When he died in 840, his kingdom was divided, as was the custom, among his heirs. However, the last division of the Carolingian Empire took place in 887 under the great-grandson of Charlemagne, Charles the Fat, when the domain was divided among six heirs. The unfortunate adjective is indicative of Charles' inability, both physical and mental, to sustain the empire from Viking raiders. Regional rulers forced to defend their lands because the emperor could not led to the dissolution of the empire that Charlemagne had built. Charles the Fat died in January 888, and the empire of his ancestor became a collection of competing states. For Europe, the return to unification was over. Germany and France arose from the wreckage of Charlemagne's empire. However, boundaries cannot sever the deeds of a man from the legend that has traveled through history, and Charles the Great remains one of the most compelling and effective leaders of the Middle Ages. Your free ebooks. As a way of saying thank you for reading our book, we're offering you a free copy of the below ebooks. Happy reading. American History in 50 Events, British History in 50 Events, made in Germany, November 8th, 2017.